joining us for this webinar. This is the first of a series of 3 webinars called Ready, Set, Go. This first webinar, Ready, is essentially a webinar to provide you with an introduction about how to twin. So by the end of this webinar, we're hoping you'll understand how to begin the process in either your chapter or your treatment center to successfully start an international twinning partnership under the World Federation's twinning program, and also be familiar with the resources at your disposal and the paperwork that needs to be completed to launch a twinning partnership. And finally, know all the important facts that you have to keep in mind to successfully launch a twinning webinar, a partnership. So we've got Patricia on the line who will be presenting. She developed this webinar in collaboration with another colleague, Mylène Difana, and so they worked together to put this webinar up and running for tonight, and both have extensive experience doing partnerships under the World Federation, and in fact have won awards for the work that they've done. So I think they'll know what they're talking about very well, and so they'll be basically providing with tips and advice and some of their wisdom. So this webinar will last an hour. We're looking at a presentation of about 30 minutes, after which we'll be taking questions. So because the sound seems to be a bit of an issue, what I would ask you to do is to type your questions in the chat box, and when we get to the question period, we will address some of your questions, and you may also make some comments if you have any thoughts that you would like to share with the rest of the group, and we'll share that as well. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Patricia so that she can begin the presentation. So go ahead, Patricia.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. You just did my first slide there. So I just want to say hello to everybody and welcome to this the first webinar that's being done for this twinning program explanations here. And thanks for taking your time to join us tonight. We weren't sure if there was a need for this, but it looks like there's a fair amount of people who are interested in the information. Some of you have experience in twinning, so at the end when we get the questions, feel free to jot down any suggestions that come to mind during the presentation, anything that comes up that you think you might have a solution for the problem or something that we forgot, and feel free to join in at the end when we get started on this. So the very first one is, what is a twinning? Come on, what is twinning? So twinning is a mentoring program developed by the World Federation of Hemophilia. It's a formal partnership between emerging and established patient associations or treatment centers. The teams from an established country share their experience and knowledge with their peer group in the emerging country, and the 2 partners sign an official document agreeing to work together as part of this WFH program. So there are 2 types of twinning programs, hemophilia treatment center twins, known as center twins, and the hemophilia organization twins, known as hot twins. This webinar includes both groups because understanding what your group needs to ensure that it's ready to take on a twinning project is much the same for both of them. The differences occur during the actual twinning work. Center twinning can improve diagnosis and delivery care, and so minimize complications associated with hemophilia, ultimately leading to improved quality of life for patients. The heart partnership can strengthen the skills and make the patient group stronger so they can better educate, support, and advocate for improved care for their members. Each twinning group can work independently or they can work together to further improve care and treatment. The treatment personnel can be involved with hot activities even if they're not part of official center twinning. And the participation of medical professionals brings a level of credibility to patient organization meetings with both local government officials and the medical personnel in the emerging country. And the experience shows that double twinning with both hot and center groups involved increases the effectiveness and impact of both of these programs. So why get involved? What's your motivation for starting a partnership? Well, obviously, we all want to help improve the quality of life for people with bleeding disorders where they have little or no care and treatment. So there's no question about that. The reasons are very good. However, chapters and centers need to ask themselves some questions about this long-term commitment. First of all, does your own group have the capacity to take on a twinning project? Are your members already stretched to the limit with the work they have to do in your own work, in your own projects at work? Do your volunteers have the specific skills needed to help? Or should you look outside your own group for people who have those skills and invite them to join you? One thing is certain, twinning projects are not a ticket for travel and sightseeing. The days are filled preparing for activities, doing presentations, traveling back and forth. You have to check receipts, expenses, hold meetings, and there's lots of time spent waiting for people or waiting for meetings to happen. Lots of waiting. And often the only sightseeing you get to do is watching the view from your taxis going to and from your activities in the airports, and maybe get to go to a restaurant outside your hotel. So it's a very intense few days with a lot of work to get done on the trips. But sometimes your hosts definitely want to show off the country a bit, so they'll take you for a little ride somewhere. So what are the benefits to the emerging country to get involved in twinning? Well, the trained medical personnel can definitely works to improve treatment. Data shows that the life expectancy for people with bleeding disorders from countries with lower incomes increases if there is a national hemophilia care center, and this despite the fact that the treatment projects may still be very limited. And the presence of a group of foreign experts helps to raise the awareness with the government and in the media. The HOT partnership can help a patient organization become a driving force for change, and it increases advocacy, patient education, and support. The presence of a foreign country can also bring out the media for public awareness of activities, and the skills shared can increase the confidence of the volunteers themselves, giving them confidence to speak out for better treatment. Sort of weird just to be talking to myself here. Ready, set, go. So, sorry about that. Here are the topics we'll be dealing with in this webinar, and the details of the topics may help you to decide whether or not your group is actually ready to start working on a twinning partnership. There's also information available to help you get ready to start the process itself. The time requirements. Now, a twin project can take up to 5 years to complete. The first year is often takes place, the assessment visit takes place, and then there are 4 years permitted for action plans and activities with WFH funding included. And while there's usually only one major activity a year where a delegate travels to an emerging country, one or more delegates, the rest of the year involves planning your projects, doing the reports and budgets, evaluating what happened the year before, and doing the ongoing communication with your twins. And communication is an essential part of twinning projects. Countries can work at different speeds, but they both need to adapt. And you have to be ready to initiate most communications, in my experience. Volunteers in the emerging hot twins may not have easy access to internet. This adds to the problems with communication. And then add the cultural differences and the language barriers, which means it can take a while before a clear understanding is reached and you begin to work easily together. The treatment center twins are less likely to have this type of communication problem since most partners will have access to computers and the internet. And center twins usually have fairly specific goals and skills to share with partners who are educated and speak a basic common professional language, the language of medicine. However, there still needs to be some kind of synergy to help maintain the continuity of the project. Twins will often meet face-to-face during WFH Congress years, which is every second year. Your own group should meet regularly to be kept informed about the progress of the project. And the program activity visits usually last from 3 to 5 days, plus 2 travel days or more, depending on the distance between the countries. You might also need more time off to adapt to jet lag if the countries require lengthy travel times. Paperwork. Everybody loves paperwork. As far as paperwork goes, here's the list of the documents that need to be completed for all WFH twinning projects. There are 3 documents for the assessment visit process, and then there's an action plan and a progress report to be completed every year of the 4 years of the project itself with detailed financial statements and receipts, and then a closure questionnaire at the ending of the twinning. It's also good to keep your organization or clinic aware of what's happening with the twinning in order to maintain their support. This can be done with regular articles and updates for chapter newsletters, or putting pictures up on your Facebook with little ditties about what's going on. Plus, you can also have information included in the annual report of your chapter or your clinic. I'm not sure if clinics do annual reports like that, but to report to the clinic and the hospital itself. The human resources needed. Well, the patient groups and treatment teams must have the support of their chapter or clinic if the twinning is to continue. This is especially important if staff time is involved in the work, which means new work that they have to take on. As I mentioned before, this is a long-term commitment. Twinning is not an individual project. It takes a team to share the work and requires a variety of skills and experience, and it also offers different points of view when more people are involved. Some volunteers or staff may leave at some point during the twinning project, so at least 2 specific lead volunteers need to be identified to play key roles and to ensure the continuity of the project. Experience. This isn't a training program for your own members. The developed twin volunteers must already have skills and experience to bring to this program that they can share with the emerging country. But they will also bring back new skills or viewpoints to your own group, such as how to do more with less. You need a solid base. If your own chapter or clinic is experiencing a problem or it's stretched to the limit, it's not the time to start the twinning project. Okay, I've skipped something here. I went way back up to 16. Sorry, I'm having trouble moving my... There it is. Okay. We'll start with the hot volunteer skills for the hot volunteers. So the organization delegates need experience in one or more of these areas: administration, governance, patient education and support, fundraising, volunteer development, communications, and media relations. The delegates chosen for travel for workshops will depend on the action plan developed. Sometimes it may be a delegate from the emerging group who travels to the established country to get first-hand experience of these skills being put into action, such as during chapter workshops or planning sessions. Advocacy for treatment and care takes a very specific set of skills. These are needed to help reinforce the patient group so that it can lobby for better care. If no one in your group has experience in these areas, you can always call on someone from another chapter or from the CHS National to help with these issues. The organization groups can also approach someone from the treatment center who may be interested in helping with specific medical workshops or lobbying. There are very specific skills involved in center twinning. Again, the choice of delegates from the multidisciplinary team who will take part in any action plan activities will depend on the goals of the action plan. Center twins do not have to deal with fundraising, volunteer program development, or the administration of a volunteer organization. But center twins are highly influential when involved in advocacy work for improving treatment and care. Their medical status can open doors. Their experience with meeting with government agencies, hospital administrators, or pharmaceutical companies can be very useful. The WFH regional director will be involved in these official meetings, but only when he or she is available, not all the time. Now, the financial resources. So here's the basic funding available for twinning projects. The WFH covers the cost of the assessment visit, and they basically organize the visit reserving planes and hotels and setting up the meetings. The WFH will also gives an annual cost of $2,000 to $8,000. I'm not sure if these numbers have changed at all. They'll study your action plan and decide which projects it'll fund. Certain expenses may not be eligible for WFH funding, such as paying for any staff or for the developed twin to attend Congress to meet their partner. You can also ask your chapter or clinic for some kind of funding, and they should approve any staff time that has to be used to support the twinning. Then there's some limited financing from the CHS International Fund, which has gone down in since the years 2000 when we had the last Congress in Montreal. There is also community support. Some people have gone to local communities from that their twinning country and found some funding there, or people ready to do fundraising for your twinning. Now here's the expenses that you have. The expenses directly related to the twinning project and the action plan can all be included in your budget. These include transportation, meals, and accommodations for your delegates to go there, vaccinations and visas, which you may, your chapter or your group might decide if they cover them or not. Travel cancellation insurance is definitely something that's good to have, but you need to know that if the reason you have to cancel is a pre-existing condition, such as a bleed with a hemophiliac or change in medication, then you can't. That won't be covered for your travel cancellation. We learned that recently. It's uncertain at this point whether WFH covers travel health insurance for volunteers during twinning activities. We've had conflicting information on this point recently, and in fact the WFH policy on these insurance issues is presently being reviewed. So we should know soon whether or not twins are covered when they go traveling. Communications. This can mean buying a computer for the developing country, including funds for internet cafe services, since often people do not have access to any internet connections. Any action plan activities that are taking place, the activities are covered. These can include meals for the groups, renting a room activity, having refreshments, break time, bringing educational materials in. So all of these things can be included in your action plan. The one point that becomes complicated is the money transfer. Initially, as a developed twin, you usually will receive the funds from WFH and be in charge of keeping the finances in order and transferring the funds to your twin. Money transfer fees can count up, so you have to shop around for the best method of transferring funds to your twinning partner. The best way is directly into a bank account, but not all groups will have a bank account, so it's something that you really have to look into. Personal expenses. Volunteers are not paid to participate in twinning activities. It's part of the rules of the twinning program. However, some companies have a volunteer policy allowing employees to take time off for volunteer work. It doesn't necessarily cover your salaries, but it will allow you to take leave off without having to use your vacation time. Medical personnel can sometimes use the CME continuing education program and be able to have their absence, their salary covered. It may cover part of it, but this also depends on the field and the department itself. The person's health insurance, as was mentioned, the question is presently under discussion. We had here thought at this point that it was a personal expense that we would have to pay. Of course, you pay for your own passport because you'll be using it for a number of years, and then if you happen to decide to stay over and do some sightseeing and get some souvenirs, well, obviously that will be at your own expense too. Okay. I'm working on two computers. That's my problem. Sorry. So the role of the WFH Regional Director. So the Regional Director is really your link to the your twinning partner and to the World Federation. The Director will participate in your assessment visit and advise you on cultural differences and on the situation of your potential twin. Hopefully he or she should be aware of any former twinning partnership or any training sessions that your twin has been part of as either part of an in-country program or other Novo Nordisk programs in other countries, in other regions. They should be aware of that. It would make a big difference to how you deal with how you work together. The director will intervene during twinning if there are any problems that arise, either with communication or relationships. He'll also help with government negotiations and lobbying when it can be available. Unfortunately, we found that you usually have to almost reserve their time almost a year in advance so they can fit it into their schedules, their plans so far in advance. So that is a bit of a problem. The regional director is definitely your go-to person for any problems that you have with your twinning project. So the benefits, some of the benefits for the established twin once you're in a twinning project. One of the many benefits is that volunteers who participate increase their own expertise by reviewing their own work very much in detail when they set up action plans, give workshops, or when they're working on advocacy issues. They go into much more details on the procedure of how they do things. And not only do you get a chance to learn about other cultures and the way they work with less resources, but you can bring back new ideas and new energies to make a difference in your own group when you get home. When you share your experience of the reality of living with little or no treatment and bring home those pictures and show them to your group at home, your chapter or your center, the members here get a whole new appreciation for their own care and the quality of their care. And sometimes they suddenly understand the importance of advocacy work to ensure that we can maintain the level of care we have in Canada and maybe stop taking it for granted quite as much. And then, of course, it's also very satisfying when you see that you've helped make some kind of a difference in the lives of some people, no matter how limited the changes are. You've still done something to help a little bit improve their lives. The WFH research materials. So the WFH website offers numerous manuals and publications that are instrumental to twinning for both hot and center twins. The two first documents you see here are manuals that take you right through the complete twinning process from start to finish. Reaching Beyond Our Borders, which is the guide for the hemophilia organization, and Improving Care Beyond Our Borders, the twinning guide for treatment centers. Most of the WFH documents are very helpful to both twinning projects and can be found under the heading that you see here, the comprehensive development models. It's one of the titles that's within the website. Sometimes it's hard to maneuver through the WFH website a bit, but if you type that in, it should come up. This page divides up into the publications for both medical and hot-ish and organization twinnings on dealing with different issues. And all the most of the WFH documents can be downloaded, and they can also be downloaded in a number of languages, which really can facilitate the understanding for your partner. Some of them are in 6 or 7 different languages, so that can also, you can look at the same document and understand what's going on. So some of these only some of these documents are available. There's many other documents with information useful for both medical and organizational needs, and you can also use them in your own work at home also if you haven't looked at them before. I say at home, I mean in your organization. The CHS also has a lot of resources with documents and programs to help with your twinning work and in your own work. They include educational materials, and they can also be downloaded, most of them, and both in French and English. There are also workshop models that you can base some twinning activities on, such as the passport workshops and different care and treatment documents. The webinars, such as Ready, Set, Go, will be online, and others we're planning on developing others in the future, including some on advocacy, troubleshooting when things go wrong in your twinning, communication when communication is one of the ones that's a big problem in twinning, and different government documents. So they'll be developed hopefully in the near future. Also, the members of the CHS, as Michelle mentioned, members of our committee have gained a wealth of experience with twinning projects over the past 20 years, and each one of the twinning projects is very different. So you can also contact us if you have any specific questions you think you might like to ask us, and you can go through the CHS with that. So the question is, are you ready? Are you ready for a twinning? Well, to start you off, here's a little checklist to help you decide if you're actually ready for a twinning project. So do you have support from your chapter or center? You can't work alone, you can't work without it. Do you have the capacity to take on this work? You have to make sure that your own group is strong enough to take good volunteers, experienced volunteers, away from the work to be done there. Do you have a clear idea of why you want to twin? Why do you get involved? You need 3 committed key volunteers because it is a lot of paperwork, communications, reports to be written up all the time, there's a fair amount of work to be done. You need a commitment from other people to help, because the more people you have, the more viewpoints you have, the more skills you can have involved, the more you can offer to your twin. Skilled volunteers available for travel, and you can have a lot of skilled volunteers, but they have to be able to take time off work. It could be at different times of the year. You never know. It depends on the country. It depends on their holidays. It depends on the time of year, what the weather is like. So people have to be able to travel in order to share their skills. Communication and media skill. They do a lot of public awareness in other countries, and it helps to be able to be at ease in front of cameras, or to be able to help them know how to deal with the media. You need patience and persistence. Things don't change overnight. Sometimes you have to turn on a dime and rethink everything you've planned, because something comes up and you have to change it, or people have changed within the groups. So you have to be, it takes a while to get things, but you just have to keep going through it. So if you can answer yes to these questions, then you could be ready to go on to the next step in the twinning process. And this includes how to set up your project by finding a potential twin and arranging an assessment visit to see whether or not you think you can work with this group for the next 4 or 5 years and help them to grow and help them to improve their lives also. And that's it for this presentation. So if there are any questions, I'll let Michelle take over the reins of the controls here.
Okay. Thank you very much for a very thorough overview of getting ready to start a partnership. While people are typing some questions, so please go ahead in the chat box. You can type your questions and we'll start addressing them. So while we wait for some questions to come in, I see one already, but we'll wait for a few more. I just wanted to mention that if people are interested to become involved in a twinning team, we're certainly open to that. But this webinar is just an introduction. But if you do have an interest eventually, please get in touch with your chapter or even with me, and we'll look into that certainly. So we have a first question from Samuel. He's asking, how does a country get selected to be part of the twinning program?
Are you talking about the developing country or the?
I'm assuming, he's
yes.
talking
Okay.
about the developing country. Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, they have to be members of the World Federation of Hemophilia in order to be eligible to be part of the twinning program. And they will meet with the regional directors, and they have certain criteria that the group has to meet in order to be allowed to be. They have to think that the group is ready to take on a twinning project, because it's complicated for them too. They have to be able to organize things. They have to be able to communicate. They have to be willing to. They have to have some kind of a basis that they want to work on. Sometimes they're not quite ready because there's not enough people that are involved who have any kind of experience, or they're sort of mostly medical people that are involved. Often the groups are started by medical personnel. So it's actually the WFH who decides whether or not they are eligible to become a twin. And then they have to do the same thing. They go to the WFH and they tell the people, they tell the WFH twinning program that they're ready to, they're looking for a twin. And then the regional directors get together and they try and see how they can, the personalities and the type of people it is, and try to see if they can match them up as best they can. And
so basically then the emerging twin will be hooked up with the twin from Canada in this case, and basically to engage in some discussions in terms of, is this something they want to do together? Mm-hmm. And then the assessment visit occurs where you can actually get in more depth discussions about some objectives you'd like to achieve together and how feasible is that. And once you've kind of determined that, together you would provide the WFH with an application form to do a twinning. And so you would provide all the information as to why you want to twin, and then the process goes to the next step. And that was part of the assessment visit, the assessment questionnaire that everyone has to fill in.
then they get the information, and then they can see whether or not the group, and they can talk to the group and see if they're ready or not.
So Samuel is asking, is a list of countries that are part of the World Federation, are those countries listed on the World Federation website?
Yes, they are. Yeah, you can go to the website and you can find a list of all the member countries.
Yes.
There's a lot of information on that site. Sometimes it's difficult to find exactly what you want. I keep getting surprised by things that I see on it.
The list of member organizations are listed alphabetically. So you'll find mixed into the list established twins as well as emerging twins. So it's not clearly indicated which one is emerging and which one is established. So you may have to find out a little bit more from the World Federation how they classify the groups. But developing countries generally tend to be the emerging ones, whereas countries like Canada, the more established countries tend to be the established ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the criteria is for developing. If it's probably the what's it called, the gross national product, GNP maybe.
Perhaps. Yeah, I'm not sure. So we have a question for Dan. Dan is asking, how many persons would make an ideal twinning team, and are there any special skill sets, that are critical?
Well, from my experience, we've always had at least four, maybe four very, very active people. As I say, you need some key people that really keep up the communication and keep up the documentation, and you have to take care of the funding when you start getting funding. But we have 7 or 8 people who are involved. We have sent as many in one twinning. We sent 7 different people because they had different skills. One had fundraising skills. One had the governance skills. Definitely, there's some that are more important. Some of the skills that are more important than others. Just looking at the list, it's the administration and governance is definitely one of the big ones. Volunteer development. They all need patient education and support programs often. Some more than others. We had a twin that the patients didn't know the difference between hemophilia A and B and their A and B blood type. They mixed the two of them up, so they really needed education starting from the basics. But then there are all the advocacy. Basically they all want treatment. They all want to get treatment from you, and we can't bring them products. So you definitely, if you can have people who have advocacy skills, it's definitely one of the major skills that you want to bring. People who have dealt with trying to get treatment or help in the centers, work in the centers, try to get different medical people in the centers of services. If you've worked with government officials, and also your media relations, your communications stuff comes into that to help. But you have to have the basic knowledge of the blood systems and the drugs used and how it works, how the systems work.
Yeah, and the skill sets, I would say, are also in relation to the kinds of outcomes you want to achieve as part of your partnership and what the objectives are. So if it's very focused during your twinning on governance, for example, or strategic planning, you're going to look for people who have that set of skills. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. I would also like to clarify that we wouldn't be sending 7 people all together at once.
No.
Because the budget wouldn't allow for that. But
no, it was over a 6-year period.
Yeah, over the 4-year period, then we can spread out the visits. I also want to add that we don't necessarily, in some cases perhaps there is a yearly visit, but not in all cases. In some cases, you'll do a lot of work from a distance with the twin. You'll do webinars like this. You'll organize some workshops. You'll facilitate workshops even in the developing country, maybe with other resources, and or you'll alternate. In some cases, you may have people from the emerging country come to Canada to witness some activities here or take part in special events, and then on the alternate year, you may send some of our team people to the developing country to work with them on location. So that's important. Another question here for Patricia. What is the most important in making a good match?
Well, I mean, this is where usually the regional directors will sort of try and match people up just because they know both sides, the needs of both and the capacity of both. And in the end, I think in many ways what happens, it's just because your personalities click. The best ones, you just get along right away. You know, you're comfortable with them. And, you know, we had the experience of the emerging twin. All they wanted was product, and they didn't really want to learn anything else. They didn't want to deal with anything else but product, which didn't work because we couldn't bring them product. You know, we could help their organization, but not get them treatment. So the match is you know, in the end, it's really be able to communicate and be able to work with the people. And as I said, probably the WFH, the regional directors are the ones who can put you together books for your skills and what's wanted, as Michelle said, what's wanted and what you can offer.
Yeah, I would also add that language is an important element because if emerging country they speak Russian or they speak Spanish or they speak Portuguese, and you don't have anybody on your team who can communicate in that language, then that might not be a good match, right? So
because even if you speak the same language, sometimes you don't understand each other because it's not the same words, it's a different culture. You know, we also have seen that. We've had the problem with not enough people in our group being able to speak the language of the developing country also. So they had to do all of the work, and it sort of other people couldn't do much. So it all came down to a few people dealing with the twin all the time, or using computer translators, which are not fantastic.
Another question is, can the chapters get together to combine human resources in order to do a partnership? Because some chapters are perhaps smaller than others.
I think that would probably be a good idea because, you know, as you say, some chapters don't have a lot of people going, and some people might just not have enough people who can travel or with certain skills. As I said, you know, if you haven't got skills, you should probably get together with others who do have them, because everyone has something to give like that, and the specific skills don't have to come from one place. But you have to be able to work together, and with internet now, I mean, with computers now, everything it's easy enough to speak to each other.
Yeah,
and
it's
get
very
to
easy
work
to
like
do
that.
That because the CHS at the national level, we run twinning projects, and basically the team is made up of people from across Canada, from different regions. Whereas when the chapter does a twinning, it tends to be people from that province, from that chapter, but it's not necessarily exclusive to that. They could also bring in other people from other regions to be part of their team because of maybe the skill set and the interest. And then some chapters indeed could formally work together. So, you know, for example, the Atlantic, New Brunswick and PEI and Nova Scotia could decide to work together to do a twinning and formally establish that system. So
and the important thing is always that you have to have like a few key people that are really aware of everything and have the majority of the information so that they can carry on and work together. Because even you know, I don't know if I mentioned it, sometimes even the staff, we have had a number of people in some of our twinnings. So we've had you know, 3 or 4 changeovers in staff. So we have to make sure that we know what's going on. Some volunteer who's going to be there for a long time is aware of the numbers, is aware of what's happened in the past, and worked on reports and stuff, so that you know what's expected.
However, as far as the hemophilia treatment centers are concerned, I don't think you would find a combination of you know, many hemophilia treatment centers trying to match with one hemophilia treatment center in another country. Usually it's one treatment center twinned with another treatment center in another city. So you would have, for example, Winnipeg HTC twinned with New Delhi one of the treatment centers there. That's one of the ones we've had in the recent past. So that.
But the treatments, the multidisciplinary teams too. Some of them will also come. You can get a physiotherapist to come without that person being part of a center treatment center twinning. They will go on their own sometimes. And to do a workshop on physiotherapy or someone, the doctor will come and to look at the diagnostics of the country. They don't necessarily have to be in a treatment center twinning to participate in a twinning project.
That's right, and we've had in the past on our hemophilia organizational twins members, of the healthcare team be part of our team. And so we had exactly that, a physiotherapist, for example, who was part of our team and working with us on all the different topics, and including physiotherapy. Yeah, so that's an option as well. Are there any other questions? I don't see anyone typing at this moment. I'll get another second or two. Or any comments, perhaps?
You can unmute your line to make a comment.
Sure. If you have already set up your sound by doing *1, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak if you would like to do that.
So this one here, we're not getting into a lot of the problems in the twinning and stuff, or the details of getting it done or organizing trips. This one is really just to see whether or not you have enough people together with enough skills, to be able to make a team. It's a team job. It's a big job if it's just one person doing it, and you need as many skills as you can.
So just for people's information, right now we have several twinnings that are in operation, but some of them are in their final year in 2017. So we're looking at possibly starting up some new partnerships in 2018. So we're in discussion now with the World Federation to try and identify potential countries to try and do that. And furthermore, we have confirmation that we will be doing a youth twinning as part of a pilot project. And so our youth committee here in Canada and the youth committee in Bangladesh have been selected to be part of this pilot project to do a youth twinning for the next 2 years, so 2018 and 2019, with a possibility of perhaps extending it 1 or 2 more years depending on how things are moving along. So just so you're aware of that, so the young people that are part of our youth committees will be invited to take part of that. We're in the process now of establishing a core group in Bangladesh and a core group in Canada that will work jointly on that specific project. And for the others, as I said, we're looking with the World Federation at identifying new countries to work with us. So, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, if people do have an interest in joining one of our teams, please get in touch with us. And as Patricia mentioned, we'll be providing further information in the next 2 webinars. So the next one should be later on in July. We're still looking at choosing a date. We had tentatively a date, but we decided to postpone it till a bit later to give us a bit more time to prepare, and we wanted to see how this webinar was going to go. So we may choose a different platform to get better sound so you can actually speak to us, not just type. So we'll try and get that set up for the next one, so possibly towards the end of July. And then in September, we're looking at doing the 3rd webinar, GO, which will be more specifically about developing an action plan, some of the expectations versus reality and how to deal with that, setting achievable goals and outcomes, time frames for the action plans and the outcomes, and basically how to implement and troubleshoot as you're working with your partner and resolving some issues. So those, we hope you'll be able to join us for those next 2 webinars. So keep an open eye. We'll be sending out some information with the dates and how to join. And on that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And Patricia, any closing words that you'd like to say?
No, all I can say is twinning has been an incredible experience. You know, if you get a chance to do it, it's amazing. It's frustrating. It's marvelous. It's exciting. It's tiring. But just have, if you could just make one little difference in people's lives, it definitely
it's very
is worth it. You know.
Absolutely, and you make good friends also. With people in different countries. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again. We're getting a lot of thanks. We're happy to see that you found this presentation useful. If you do have further comments, we're always looking at improving what we present, what we do. So feel free to write to me with any suggestions or comments, and we'll certainly take those into consideration in preparing the next one. Okay, so thank you again, and have a good night. And,
thank you, everyone. Have a good night, a nice and a lovely summer.
Okay, then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.